Veno moved from EU all the way over to NA to play with Cold, but unfortunately, Cold dropped him very quickly. So Veno picked up underrated player Curve, and they played an incredibly aggressive grand finals, W-keying almost anyone they could see, getting so many eliminations, the points from these alone would have qualified them to the Summit LAN at the end of the season. Looky here. We have, what's that, an English flag? As a Scotsman, I can't say I'm too impressed with an English flag there. But for the sake of talking about EU versus NA, I will hype up England as we have a UK player winning NA Central FNCS Grand Finals. Major one for this year. Absolute cinema. Look at the eliminations. 87. All right, I pulled together a spreadsheet, everyone's favorite software, to showcase the elims in some of the most notorious grands of all time, right? So I've obviously included Veno's in here, so his first two FNCS duo wins in particular. So with Aqua, you got 43. With Veno and Queasy, the big 6 of 12, kind of a Veno video without mentioning that, they got 51. Peterbot and Poyo's big run in 2024 across all their majors. This is red in 43 because they came second, didn't actually win. But 43, 74, 51, and then at Globals, they had 81. That was actually an insane performance at Globals when you think about it. You know, Pete playing literally the best ever he has. So then I've got all of the regions from this year just to prove that, you know, this 87 number is truly insane. Like, you've got Canada, who went to NA West to farm plumbers and got 59, whereas Veno went to NA Central to farm plumbers and got 87. So, you know, we're really standing on a high here that EU is so much better than NA, of course. But even, like, Sky and Scroll's unbelievable consistent performance, they only got 57 elims, which is 30 less than what Veno and Curve managed to get. So, you know, you can see in my little graph here that I have, this right here is the performance from Veno in comparison to, you know, this one was the Pete and Poyo Globals. This was the Pete and Poyo Grim Gate season where they got 74. So truly like an outstanding fragging performance. And when you look deeper into the stats, they're actually just truly insane. You know, what's interesting is Pete actually did put on an insane performance this time. 2.1 damage ratio with 13,000. So Pete actually top damaged this entire event still. The top elims, Big Veno, 49 elims. Now you gotta remember, Sky and Scroll won on EU with 57. So he almost got the same amount of elims as Sky and Scroll, who won EU themselves. Unbelievable performance from him. So you've got 49, but next up was Curve, who got 38. So he himself was fragging. This is not just a Veno performance. Obviously, Curve is incredibly good as well, and together they played so well. If we scroll down, you know, Pete's on 34, Ager's 35, Bolt's 29, Cold 28, Poyo 24. You know, you've got some of the biggest players. Like, look at the gap between 49 and, like, Peterbot in 34th, for example. Like, 1st to 4th. Absolutely insane. I mean, you got to do a fraud watch. Who's at the bottom? Unfortunately, Blank's got 0. And I think one of the other things I want to highlight in this too, in this new Surge meta, Surge hits 0. 0 Surge hits. So in this meta where obviously a lot of people are playing very passive, these guys are getting the highest eliminations. I don't know ever, because I've not checked every FNCS Grand Finals, but at least in most recent history or some of the biggest performances, the highest eliminations and still getting 0 Surge tags. So they're literally fighting and W-keying for their Surge in a meta where everyone else is just scared and trying not to take damage at all. All right, so they land Battlewood Boulevard north side. So this is exactly the same as Sky and Scroll on NA, or sorry, on EU, which I'll do in a later video coming up this week as well. All right, so day one, which was slightly worse one, these are what these zones look like. I didn't actually realize you could do this in this area. That's actually pretty sick. You can actually see exactly where every single zone was. So for them being like a south team here, this is actually not super favorable zones, right? This game here was pretty good for them. This game here was pretty good. But, you know, most of the zones pulled completely to the north. Like, you know, 4 of them pulled all the way north, which is absolutely not ideal. Oh, there's a little animation. That's cool. So, yeah, day one, they didn't really have the best zone pulls. And I will also be honest, they placed 10th on day one. So they played way better on the second day than on the first day. On day two, the zones were a little bit more favorable. As you can see, they had 2 on their drop spot, 3 very close, and 1 pretty far. So, drawing in the loot that they get access to here. Let's see. So in their drop spot here, they have 26 chests on average, obviously because not all of these are 100% spawn rate. 6 cash registers, 0.8 safes. So 6 cash, that's a lot of gold off the rip. 110 health from, you know, different like slurp barrels, I think it is, and things like that. Don't know. Tons of mats, so no issue with mats at all, especially metal, which obviously is a lot of problem for some players landing on splits. But yeah, in terms of chests, like 26.5, tons for each of them, lots of gold as well, which, you know, every single team needs to go to mending machines this season too. Now, all this gold is very important because of the mending machines. So I've skipped forward in this game. I'm going to go through a lot of the matches today because this is very interesting. And as you can see, this is one of the games with the zone pulled kind of north of for them. So in this instance here, they're going for the mending machine. Now, looking at the inventory of what they have right now, you might not think it's super necessary. They're insanely stacked on heals. However, this is a very, very good plan, right? You'll see that Veno will sit here and commit a bunch of materials to get towards the mending machine. Spray from a distance, make sure no one's camping on it. Go up, claim the space, and then they have the mending machine claimed. Now, the time they did this at was like 11:50 here. And skipping forward, like, this is now, what, 2 minutes later almost? 2 minutes later, they're still just sitting here. Obviously, they can buy med kits and things like that to keep themselves in this position, as you see that they already have, with cat mats. But they can also just sit and wait, because everyone pushes towards these in the storm. So just sitting and holding them in this area opens up so many opportunities for them, right? So as you can see, Void Magma and Big G Money are on the walls. They're trying to shoot, totally unaware that someone's been camping there because they've literally just been sitting crouched for so long. Veno gets chunked. They immediately heal up using the gold that they have because, again, they have so many. They then have a knock. They can just jump straight in. And whether, I can't remember whether they got the elim or not onto G Money. I'm not sure. I haven't watched that far ahead. But they get one onto Magma. Free elimination point. Extra materials if they need be. Almost zero risk because the teams coming are just like running straight up into your wall and doing stuff. And you can play the storm at this point too. Now, had they timed it a little bit better, or if zone had pulled towards them rather than pulling like totally max, as you can see 6 zone pulls here. They also have really free rotates into any zone, right? This is very unfortunate that this zone pulled north here. But had it pulled to the west, they have good rotates around this way. Had it pulled this way, they had free rotates around that way using the med kits that they had and the splashes. So obviously, like, Curve has the 3 meds, and Veno there and has the 6 splashes too. So they would have had, like, perfect rotates to get into any zone. It's just unfortunate the zone pulled completely max for them here. So free elim points, they can sit and do nothing on a good position by getting there early, and good rotates if you don't pull a max zone, which is, you know, say 3 out of 4 odds in this particular zone that you don't pull one completely max. All right, there's something that I really, really like here, as the zone in this game pulls back towards them. So they've got a favorable zone pull this time, as you can see they're down here. And they did this big tarpon earlier, where they have a lot of space. And as you notice, they're both just crouching back through it. Unfortunately, it's Blake and Preston who are down here, completely unaware, because they are crouching, that they're just running onto old edits where Curve and Veno are. So you can see they're just holding one pump, Blake dead, Preston also just down afterwards as well, is not able to get out, and they just get 2 completely free refreshes before moving zones. So, you know, this is like ideal timing to get a good refresh, right? Cap mats, just going into 8th zone. I think the zone timer is still broken in the bottom right, and I always forget which one. They have a ton of space, mythic pump now, 6 elim points already going into this. So, like, able to get a refresh at this point in the game is something so critical, and in particular just by sneaking and lurking. Unfortunately, that is entirely what they do in early game, mid game, late game, crouching, lurk around, getting the first shot off, which we're going to see a lot of in the other matches too. All right, this I find a very interesting rotate that they do here as well. So again, zone pulls pretty max for them this time, so completely as far as they can go. They do have the materials from the refresh that they got. They've just landed in, and they're basically one of the most backside teams possible. You know, if I zoom out and have a look here, they're pulling towards all of this. So they've got to go towards some of this. You know, Pete Poyos, one of the biggest teams in the region. They're not fully back because there is a bunch of other players behind them too. But because they're deeper in, as you can see, absolute W rotate. This is something that we talk about quite a lot. They're in the edge. They're deeper in from the edge so that they have priority. They can just rotate through this way. But what they do here is very interesting. They don't just shockwave. I keep calling them shockwaves. Overdrives, like a lot of teams do. I was going to say, I don't know if this is intentional. Surely this is intentional. But they're looking up to height. Veno scouts out, seeing where he can rotate, chooses a path. Rather than just like overdrive nading over everyone's head, you'll see he waits for the zone to catch up, and then he just throws an overdrive nade at the ground to give them the overdrive effect, and then actually tarps in, as you can see. So does not edit through, just hits the overdrive nade, so they've got increased movement speed, uses a little wood, and then just goes along low ground, right? Everyone at this point is just focusing on overdrive nading, flying through the sky. So by actually just tarping instead, using the increased movement speed, 0 people looked at them until they actually got in. So really interesting choice to save the overdrive nades for later. And I don't know what is going on here, by the way. I don't want to call these guys NPCs. That's rude, but it does look like zombie defense, so people just sprinting in and out of their box there. So they get another refresh. All right, I chose this game in particular because it was one of their worst games. This is where they came 10th with 7 elims, which obviously we already got a bunch of them. But they miss out a bunch in the end game, as you notice here. They got some of those earlier refreshes, and then they basically just played out their mats. But as you notice, they're kind of down to like 10 builds, 10 builds. The fact that they just like tarp every end game and use so many materials means that you have to get more aggressive. So like, if you are a team who uses a bunch of mats and uses your mobility items less, as kind of they do, you have to rely on getting a bunch of refreshes. And in games like this, where you aren't able to get a refresh deeper into the moving zones, again, you're just going to run out of mats earlier. So what we saw across the entire weekend was this exact same play, that when teams get down to like almost no builds, what an arrow that was I just drew, holy moly, almost no builds, right? We've got 10 and 8 here. Drop a fizz grenade down, and then because they've saved their nades, right? Curve still has 6. And Veno still has 3. This allows them a ton of options to go for height retake. So here the play is obviously to fly up with the Flowberry Fizz. Unfortunately, there was a bit of server lag there. And then because they have so many grenades, they have the ability to keep chucking them down onto low ground to throw players out into the storm. Again, we saw this tons throughout the weekend. Unfortunately, at the exact same time as Veno did this, Higgs also did the same thing to stay higher up. Curve's also up in the air. He gets Higgs beamed, and yeah, and he dies to clicks. You can see as they do it, Higgs is already up in the sky, right? You can see he's way higher because he did this from height, because there was another team trying to take height from behind him. And then Clicks does the exact same thing, manages to pick up both of them. So yeah, everyone's kind of doing this, going crazy. I'm not sure the timing of this. This was what the 10th zone this happened. So I'll see kind of how they change this into day 2. I just want to show one game from day 1, because obviously this one wasn't that great for them, even though they still got 7 elims, which as you can see was a lot from like sneaking earlier on. So yeah, on day 1, you can see that they kind of struggled mainly in the end games, right? 14th, 10th, which was the game we just watched, 25th, a 42nd, and then 11th and a 19th. But they were like still doing very good fragging on this first day, right? It's just like I was going to say they didn't get a single top 10. They didn't get a single digit placement game, which is, of course, if we scroll into day 2, you can see absolutely changed that up. So let's watch the win to start with. There's a bunch of good games here. First, second, a second, and then another 6th as well. All right, so this game, they were a lot less active in the early and mid game, as you saw. You can get a bunch of elims here, which I imagine, this is kind of 5th zone again-ish, maybe 6th. And then, again, fragged way more out in the end game. Straight off the rip, yeah, this has been a favorable zone for them, of course. They've basically not moved this entire game. They've just stayed in Boulevard. As you can see, they have the tower on the hotel building there. Veno down below, I imagine, refarming a bunch of mats with a bunch of heals. Yep, getting the brick up that's split up above to Curve. Curve getting a nice little single shot elim onto Scare. So this game set up very well. I would also like to add that throughout the weekend, of course, the new Surge meta, one of the main ways players were peaking was just this. Sitting at the back of a box, so that if you're too close to the front, of course, you could be seen from this angle or this angle. So, sitting at the back of the box, through a window, sitting at a cone like this. Whether you do a right window, middle window, whatever it is, this is pretty much how almost every good player was peaking to avoid taking damage back so that you don't fall below the innate surge. This here's also some very, very good awareness from Veno and Curve, of course, to notice this team here, Avenger, is below surge and getting ticked. I'm not sure if they've actually hit them for white damage yet as they're shooting them. This is the same team who was running through their box in the previous game. So, of course, you can just hear them getting ticked from here. You can actually, well, you can hear the shield crack and the damage being hit on them. So from there, they're just sitting back into a nice safe spot, trying to spray them from any angle they can. Again, look at the angles that they're playing here to not take damage, and notice how they're either sitting deep back into the box like this, or being sprayed from here is very, very difficult. Like, what angles are they going to be able to be shot from here, from this cone edit? Maybe if Acorn and Bolt sat on height and saw that they'd edited, they could spray, but of course they have this brick wall behind them. They're being very, very careful on every single angle and every single spray that they take. Then they get this floor broken, and of course, I don't think they get both elims. I think they get one at least here. Let's see. I don't know if they managed to damage both. One. Yeah, so they managed to get one elim each. And again, this is just before moving zones, similar to the previous game that we watched here. And now they're back up to cap. I mean, they were basically cap already. Mats were 136 and we are 148. So they're basically cap before moving zones. So yet again, timing of the eliminations, very, very nice. One thing that's really important is also how you work together as a team to fight, right? You can see Curve lands frontside here off of that nade. And he's got a nice spot claimed, but Veno is actually a little bit further back. So this is his tarp here. And as you can see from Veno's POV, he's got Agers in his box. And he's piecing, he's replacing the wall. He gets the cone in that box. He replaces the wall. He gets the cone in, edits the top, and then gets the elim onto Agers. I think what's interesting is actually what Curve does in this. You can see here as he gets into the same box, right? They were a little split off of that nade. You can see that he's standing on the ramp or that Agers placed. And he's just spraying, plays pump out. That's it. So he does not place a single build in this fight. So I need to see if this is consistent throughout how they fight normally. But Veno's doing all the building, everything. Curve is literally just spraying, taking his shotgun out, and shooting. This can kind of avoid the awkward scenario where one person's trying to replace the wall, the other one's not. You know, you've got mixed communication on who's doing what. Veno's doing everything mechanical, and Curve is literally just shooting. Then this whole sequence of how they get an elim in endgame here is also so good. So they've got like 35 builds each. This is a great time to go for a refresh, because if you run out of mats too early, then how are you going to replace walls? How are you going to cover yourself if it doesn't go right? 30-ish builds each in this is like a perfect scenario, because sure, if they die with those, it's not ideal. But if they get a good refresh, like, they can set themselves up to win the game. And if you're one of the best teams in the world, that's the kind of scenarios you want to be putting yourself in. So here, he hits him for 76. That's visuals there. And he ends up tarping a little, covering his side. Puts the pre-edit on, which you can't see in replays, of course. Gets the ramp out. Scouts. Takes a second to reload, and he looks. So he sees visuals is now here. Jumps up on the cone. And then just jumps straight into the pre-edit. As you can see, he just pre-edit. Bang, gets it. Visuals insta-dead. So very, very nice timing on the refresh. Gets the pre-edit off, and then he's almost capped mats from that one refresh. And then from Curve's POV, of course, Veno is pushing. He just jumps up, sprays, doesn't do anything dumb, just takes out the shotgun and sprays. That's it. He's literally just shooting his gun and allowing Veno to do more of the mechanical parts. I mean, I guess in this instance, it's literally just a pre-edit, so it's not super mechanical, but he's not confused now. He's not trying to hold the wall at the same time. He's just shooting, taking his pump out. And this right here is now a perfect time to go for height. If you got to imagine, zone pool's far here. They've got a tarp at front side. Team is pulling over their head, which means that they're going to be at the front or whatever. As you see, both players have pizza. So 3 slices of pizza is 35 HP each. So that's what, 105? That math's right. 105, yeah. So like 10.5 ticks. I mean, you can survive 11 ticks in Storm if you do it correctly without getting an elim. So, of course, they sit and wait for the Storm to catch up here. Height is now way, way, way front side. Then they run all the way back. So, like, deeper into Storm. You know, a lot of players panic in this scenario here. But this means that Salt and Enough, who are on height, what these guys usually look for a height retake is these med bombs, okay? So they look for a team down below who's got this big mist, because the chances are they're then going to throw an overdrive grenade and fly up into the sky. However, if you fly deep enough back into Storm, all the way back here, firstly, these builds are covering them, which is perfect. But also, at the same time, chances are you're just not going to scout that far back. Like, are you really going to sit and look all the way over here into Storm to see what these guys are doing? Probably not, right? So they go down, get a Fizznade out. Pizza's out as well. Both use 3 slices each, get themselves max HP, individually overdrive, and then bang, look at that burst, straight onto Enough, instantly dead, 200-0, and now they have height claimed, and because they got the refresh earlier, they still have tons of mats as well to hold it. This is the instance you want a controller player on your team right here. That was a... I saw 52-29. I heard a double dink, though. I don't know if he double dinked. I saw 45 out of Veno as well. So, yeah, basically just insta-kills the player who is up on height. So, great height retake. That was in the 11th zone. That's kind of like classic Veno timing for height retake for the most part. Like, he's a bunch of different height retakes that he does every single meta. Like, a lot of the times I see one where he just tarps frontside and then sprays out height in 11th zone. That's about it. That's one of the kind of classic trio ones that he did for a long time. This one obviously is one that a lot more other players are using. We're just staying in the backside of zone and then Fizz flying up into the sky. But the timing of it was very, very nice, as it was just when the 11th zone starts, which means that team pulls far so they can go even further behind into Storm and be less visible and more hidden. I love how they end up finishing this off as well. Veno drops down. Classic playstyle from him. He's trying to get some right hands. Doesn't get them, so he just sits and crouches on top. So he's just waiting, he's just sitting here, doing nothing. Tanking Storm, right? Like a lot of players with no whites, in this situation, they would just panic. Storm catches up. I've got to go front side. Oh my goodness. But no, he just waits. Sphinx climbs over the top of him here, and then he can just sprint jump. Bang! What a shot with a mythic pump to get Sphinx down. And then again, he's not panicking. He's looking for Muzz down below. He's not even like running into Storm. He takes the shot onto Sphinx so that he can make sure he gets the siphon from that and survive, of course. Now he does end up jumping in to make sure he survives, yes. But same time, he's not like running around trying to get the right hand saying, oh, I must stay in the safe zone. He allows himself to play some Storm there to get the shot into the back of Sphinx, which ultimately allows him to win the game there when Curve sprays Muzz from height. Obviously, another good part about Boulevard is the fact that it is so flat around it for the most part, and there's like a lot of drops. So, you know, almost no matter the bust path, you can get some sort of elims out of the sky. Like, that's already like 200 damage off the rip. Now, obviously, this meta is particularly strange, but they do the exact same thing here. So, Zone is pulling far. Veno has 26 builds. Curve has 13. As you notice, I actually don't know what height looks like at this point because I haven't looked prior to this. But his Poyo up with absolutely nothing, I don't think. I think his mats are relatively low. Pete has, what, 16? Poyo is 17. So, not the best established height in the world by any means. So what they do here is very similar to before. They use their chug splashes first. Obviously, both players get the heal. But also an important note to add about this is this storm strategy where they retake height by using this. It's actually worse by using chug splashes because it gives us visual audio, whereas eating the pizza doesn't. So, you know, you can actually be spotted easier by teams who are on height if they're scouting. Same thing again. What are the sight lines looking like from here? As you can see, way behind all of this stuff. So because they're deeper into storm, like look how far deep they are here. Very, very. Beat Poyo, you know, they know how to play height. It's not like this is a rookie team by any means. I have absolutely no clue that this height retake is coming. So then they both individually hit their overdrive nades, their way up. And at that same time, Pete Poyo, of course, were absolutely scuffed. So, you know, they didn't even manage to have really much of a fight for it up on height. The timing ended up being well. If the team was up, we saw what happened in the previous game. Then comes down to 2 builds and 0 builds each. So they just kind of do something similar here. They put another nade down, which you might think is quite a waste. That's like their last shield. Like they have no minis, they have no bigs, nothing. So they use their last shield. Just do this exact same strat again where they fly up into the air. But again, this prevents anyone from coming up and retaking height from you. So doing this from height is kind of similar to what we saw, I think, in the first game I watched, where it was Higgs and Clicks who did this exact same strategy. Basically run out of mats, fire yourself up into the sky. It gives you a little bit more time to maintain height, and it's very, very difficult for any single player to come and retake it from you. It's also important because they're both running mini ammo weapons. So as you know, his Curves had the burst in every single game we've watched so far, and Veno has the pistol as well. So, you know, they're not running any of the ARs at all. So if they're up, flying through the sky, both of them with ADS, you know, ability to spray with the 2 most powerful guns in the meta, like, you really just can't contest them up on height like that. Now, they do milk this game, lose the 2v1. Admittedly, Tyler has like 70 or 100 builds at some point, so not going to show the rest of it, but he had a good clutch to win it out. This was the second place for them. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense on why they're saving so many overdrive grenades for the end game. It's mainly just for height retakes like this. There's also some insanely free elims. You've got 2 teams fighting right next to you. Think. That makes Max down, I think, there. Spray. Another one onto mopping as well. So he just literally wipes a full duo just by, you know, spawning next to them and pistoling them off spawn. So their off spawn scenario was definitely very good. The location of Boulevard, as I mentioned earlier, for like getting players out of the sky, or in this instance, third partying here, definitely benefited them a lot. They're really struggling here, like 100 above. And one of the things that I've always noticed about these two in watching the game so far is that their teamwork is extremely good, right? There's some teams who like individually are very, very talented. And of course, I'm about to show you that because this is a great Veno solo clutch. But when Veno is making a play, Curve is always just doing the same thing. They start spraying this team at exactly the same time. Get a free refresh then. They both sprint onto the same angles. As you can see, runs to the side, onto a right hand. Very nice. Wipes him. Wipes a duo in a matter of instances. Now they both have camp mats. Now, yes, that is literally just a double spray elim. Not an impressive elim by any means. Nothing crazy. Again, it's just a trend I've seen throughout this team is that their actual teamwork is just very, very good. So yeah, the main thing I noticed is just that their teamwork is insanely good, which is funny because there's a lot of really good teams who are really good individually, but you know, their teamwork might not be the best. The way that they play together isn't. But Curve is always on Veno and just doing whatever he's doing at the same time. This is another really good rotation. As you know, these guys are not afraid of Storm whatsoever. So Zone pulls far. They're preparing for Zone to pull far here. As you see, it pulls right through Dark Dominion. Max away from the lobby. And as they were waiting for the Zone to pull there, you could see Veno is already planning to go that direction. So they immediately hit the overdrive grenade. Veno goes all the way this way and claims a bunch at the front side here. So he's claimed like 3 or 4 boxes. Curve did land straight down in the middle of Dark Dominion, fall down there. Sometimes that's going to happen, but he does a really good job of getting back together. But again, he's tanked a ton of Storm because they have the splashes, because of the pizza. They've then just claimed this spot already. So, you know, a lot of their rotates aren't just taking an entire zone and just running. It's staggering, claiming parts of zone, healing off the whites, and then, you know, playing for refreshes and elims after that. Then from the backside of Storm, then they waited for the zone to catch up. Attempt the same height retake again, but another team is doing it at the same time. So I don't think they're actually able to get it here. They've ended up playing second height, and they can't do it again now because they've got no overdrive. Well, they do have overdrive grenades, so take that back. They don't have any whites to do it with outside of this chug. So yeah, both teams will not be able to do that. Fortunately, they run out of mats. Curve ends up dropping, dies. But Veno has one of the most generational solo clutches. I did not know that started off by Clicks just droning out on the wall there to start with. Down to Siphon mats. Lovely swing to try and get into the box. His movement in this is really good. If you watched how if you've seen this clip on Twitter, you'll have seen some of the movement in the end game, which I absolutely love. Pop in the big pot, doesn't get it off. Lovely sprint behind, gets through. Max on attack. He almost dies straight away. Unfortunately, did not see him standing there. Got the Siphon active now. Barely any shield. Jumps underneath with the fizz effect as he stole it from someone else. Cuts off the front. Again, I think he's one of the only people actually inside the building, so he can take his time without getting snuck up behind. No, someone's coming from the top. He drops down, playing through the old bells. I think these are his from one of the tarps earlier. Yes, it is. Very lucky. Down to top 6 teams. Now he's ended up sneaking on the underside. Very nice to sit in the corner. The player over his head does not notice. Mantles up. Bang! Ritual dead. 157 max damage. Jumps down to low. Doesn't greed the body, which is super nice. He's played a storm because he's going to get siphoned. Comes through. Jumps up the side. Good shot onto Osid then. He gets cranked into the back. Manages the ramp flip the Brock is flunt. Very, very nice. Doesn't manage to get that elim. Jumps up. Cap brick somehow. Very lucky finding on the floor, but it seems still good at the same time. Nice shot. Unbelievable awareness to pick up Osid then. Now he's got some more siphon mats too. Down to 1v2v2. Good angle from him, but he can't take the height retake, so he goes back into storm. Hits the shockwave. Bang onto height. Look at this movement. I already know what's going to happen here. He gets sprayed from below, hits the mantle, looks to the left, which is really important because this mantles you on top of the wall, and stays on height without getting chopped. Unbelievable composure. Unbelievable composure in that scenario. Drops down to low. Nice sliding shot, but unfortunately hits the minimum. Misses again. Couple aim bullets. Veno's never missed a shot in an important moment in his life before. Misses a third, drops down, has no mats, and loses the 1v2. Crazy clutch before that in the grand finals to get up to 7th. Of course, given Curve went down. Huge game for them. All right, so coming into the last game. So that was just after the game we watched there where they placed second. 659, so they were way above already. So, you know, you've got to expect one of these teams here. One of these 4 teams, since they're so close, to want to land on your head. So in genius fashion, as you may notice, they do not land at their normal drop spot. They do not go down here thinking Pete and Poyo are going to land there and land on them, which they don't. They end up landing on this hill to try and kill them out of the sky. So instead, they land Pete and Poyo's drop, which is very, very bold. Huge, huge, huge risk, especially when you can still lose the game. Huge commitment for them in the final match just to say, you know what, we'll land on their drop spot. And funnily enough, there were 2 other teams actually there. So they got 1 kill already. Did they manage to get both? No, they got 1 off spawn there. Whereas Pete and Poyo are obviously going to try and do something a little sneaky and, you know, push into Battlewood Boulevard to try and win FNCS. Unfortunately, it did not really seem to work out that way for them. They did actually end up moving back, so I'm not sure if Peter and Poyo were actually moving to contest them off spawn, because the way I thought this happened was that I thought that Pete and Poyo landed in Battlewood, but it just doesn't seem like that's been true at all. Yes. So what they did is they landed on this hill over this side and then looped towards Boulevard to try and kill them out the sky. So that's actually what they ended up trying to do here. And then they rushed back north. Ironically, this play didn't work, and then I guess it could have lost them, but maybe it could have basically cost them second. So both teams made like a big play to try and win. And Veno's it worked out a little bit better. Veno's also absolutely flying in this final game. Full composure. Beams onto Electro. Drops down. Gets the doubles. Tries to drop down. Resets because that's just a horrible angle, let's be honest. It's on the left. He also still then runs out on this left. But does it so quick that Electro's not ready for it. Bang! Max damage. Absolutely lovely. And he gets in the box. Waits for the double spray. Beautiful. Yeah, they are still at a point where they could lose, right? Like, all they need to do is just die, and then Acorn and Bolts, Cold Rapid, Peep Poyo, or Ritual Agers just need 1 good game, and then they've lost FNCS. And they're literally just full keying backside right now. In the storm, just keying Eshu's team. Curve being a little controller goat, just playing pump out, hitting the bangs. Minute later, they're off keying further, like in the same, well, it's really further to the same area. Gets the crack onto Encrypted, slides into the box, does get absolutely banged, but of course trades the Elim there, and Curve's right behind him to finish it off if something wrong happened. Anyway, 6 Elims, so in a position where they could potentially lose FNCS, they are just W-keying in the storm. So yeah, their fighting skill, absolutely unbelievable. I think the main thing I can see about this team is that A, their teamwork is phenomenal, B, their confidence seems unmatched in this lobby. Now, the ways that they were taking height, the ways they were taking fights, unbelievable. Like the video, subscribe. Got a lot of Grands content coming on the extra channel, and of course on the main channel too. Just takes a bit more time to get that video done. It'll be the end of next week. Catch you later. Peace.